Hey, this is Steve recording for the Pauper MTG, coming from the basement of the Pauper MTG studios, recording a new deck for you. We're calling this one Jun Cycling. This is kind of a deck that Rob and I have been working on. It's kind of a hybrid of some of the other decks in the format. We came across one on MTG Salvation called Dam Cycling, where you cycle a bunch of creatures into the graveyard, cast Songs of the Damned, and then burn them out with a large Consume Spirit. We also combined elements of the Pauper Jund deck, and I think this version is probably a little better than both. You'll see some similarities to both decks that I described. Um, Kind of plays out real neat. In the black, um, we run 4 Pig Keeper. It's really nice. It gets back. It's kind of a tutor for once you have 4 creatures in your graveyard, get back whatever you need. As you'll see, we do have a lot of the cycling creatures: Monstrous Carabid, Deadshot Minotaur, Street Wraith. If you're uh, familiar with Living End from Modern, these are some of the staple creatures that you'll see in that deck. The idea is they cycle them out of the graveyard, use a Cascade spell, get back a ton of these creatures that are otherwise underpowered. 5 mana for 3/4 in the case of Dreadshot Minotaur, or a 4/4 that attacks every turn in the case of Monstrous Carabid. Kind of the idea is they spam the field with a bunch of these guys. Even though they're otherwise bad, they still beat down hard when there's a bunch of them coming out turn 3. This deck, one of the key cards is Crypt Rats. It's our sweeper. It's kind of unbelievable how much work this guy does. Our mana base is a little tight on black mana. This is something you may see in a mono black deck used to a great degree. It works well here. I mean, we tend to tutor up swamps. We have a bunch of lands to tap for black as well, the so-called Pauper dual lands. Like I mentioned before, Street Wraith. This guy, 5 mana, 3/4 Swamp Walker. We cycle him by paying 2 life. I mean, it's basically free. I mean, the 2 life can be a little risky in against some strategies, burn goblins, but as you'll see, it usually doesn't bother us one bit. Rounding out the black, we have Death Denied. This card is pretty sick here. It's an instant. Pay 2 black and X. Return X target creatures from your graveyard to your hand. When our hand's empty and our graveyard's full of dudes, this is like a draw spell on crack, and the 5 creatures for 7 mana. It's better than Sphinx's Revelation. In the green, we got Sakura-Tribe Elder. He's our ramp spell. 1/1 body for 2. Search for a basic land, put it in play tapped. This guy ramps us along real nicely. We got Satyr Wayfinder. Fills our yard up, which is kind of the strategy of the deck. And you'll see later he kind of has good synergy with Pit Keeper. And this card, Gnaw to the Bone. This card, I've been told, is OP. I don't know, life gain. Gain 2 life for each creature card in your graveyard. We've gained 14 life, 16, 18, 20 life with this card. Makes burn players cry when they see this. I've seen Rage Quit's been cussed out in the chat. Pretty awesome. Not only can you do it once, you can do it twice. Has flashback. Alright, then we got Blastoderm. This guy, it was Gurmag Angler in this slot. Happy with the decision of Blastoderm. Angler was kind of counterproductive. He ate a lot of our graveyard stuff. I mean, we usually end up eating some of our dudes, which we don't like to do. I mean, there's some other stuff that's fine. May come down as early. Angler could come down as early as turn 2 in this deck. Blastoderm, it's more like a turn 3 or 4. But having the Shroud, that's real nice. Same body size. Fading kind of feeds with our strategy. He goes to our graveyard, we can get him back. So I've been really happy with this guy in the deck so far. Running 2 Terminates main deck. A pretty value card here. Kills everything big. Anglers. The 8/8 Annihilator 2 guy. Can't think of his name, but card the Tron decks love playing. Terminates him. Cycling guy cycles for 1. Monstrous Carabid. Think about these cycling cards. Late game when we have to cast them, it doesn't feel so bad in Pauper. In Modern, when you're playing Living End, which I've done quite a bit of, if you get to the point where you're having to hardcast these guys, it never feels that good. I mean, sometimes it's a necessity. They eat your graveyard, stuff like that. And you have to, but it always feels undervalued. Not so in Pauper. Moving over green black, we've got Grisly Salvage. More graveyard, fills up our graveyard, gets us our land or a dude when we're in a pinch. That's a nice thing about this, and Wayfinder, it can really accelerate us into an all to the bone. I mean, you're losing, all of a sudden, not very many dudes in the graveyard, you cast one of this, EOT, fill up your yard, all of a sudden you're not to the bone for 8 or 10. Tears start to fall from the burn player's eyes. Deadshot Minotaur, the other 1-mana cycler. He's actually not that bad here. His come into play ability deals 3 damage to target creature with flying. Is actually pretty nice in this format. We shoot down Delvers. We shoot down Core Skyfisher. You know, all those kitty decks are real popular right now. Team Your Kitty, Boros Kitty. This guy says, eat a boulder, kitty. Alright, then our land base. Like I mentioned, we got the 3-color Jund land base. Got some of these come into play tap. Dual lands, they give you 1 life. It's pretty valuable. The 1 life makes a huge difference sometimes. Evolving Wilds, you know, fetch out. We're 3 colors we need to fixing. We're playing 4 forests, 4 jungle hollow, 2 mountains, 1 rugged highlands, 3 swamps. Like I mentioned before, not a whole lot of swamps. We tend to search for these with our fetch lands, and usually in Pauper you need to sweep the board for about 4 maximum. So, you know, we usually want to go get our swamps relatively early if we're not screwed out of some other colors, just so we can sweep the board, play not at the bone, stabilize. Going over to the sideboard, this has underseen some changes in the last couple days. We're running a pretty heavy anti-control package. You've been seeing a lot of those blue-black teachings decks, some mono-blue, stuff like that. So we're running 3 Duress, 1 Thrull Surgeon. This guy, I don't know, maybe a little too slow, but you know, he serves our purposes. He not only does he take a non-creature card, he can pretty much take any card out of the opponent's hand. Playing against Tron, take a Tron piece, you know, sack the guy, look at their hand. Also adds a body to our graveyard. May go up on those, I don't know. Speaking of Tron, we're playing 4 Rancid Earth. Hopefully shut down that strategy. Tron's one of those favorite decks of Rob's. He loves playing against it. So in honor of Rob, we're putting these in to make 4 copies of Rancid Earth to shut that down. Has a nice little ability if you have Threshold, which in this deck you get Threshold quite a bit. You can not only destroy the land, but it deals 1 damage to each creature and each player. Against some weenie strategies, this is another board sweep. The Watch Rights deck, which I've been playing a lot of, runs a lot of tokens and 1x1 creatures, kind of sweeps that. Goblins hits about half their board. Probably not exactly the best sideboard against them. They have some strategies that kind of foil that, but if they run a lot of token, like the Dragon Fodder and Crinkle's Command, this may be a good sideboard against them as well. Sideboard in red, we're running a 3 Ancient Grudge, pretty much kill your affinity there. Other cards we considered here were Ingot Chewer. You know, for the 1 evoke cost, it also adds a body to the graveyard. It's also fetchable off of Grisly Salvage, but Ancient Grudge, it can be a 2 artifact killer, which is nice sometimes. We mill it to our graveyard. We have more green in our deck, so it's easier to flash it back, and we don't really need to draw it. I mean, you tutor it up by milling it into your graveyard. Running 1 Pyroblast, added protection against the various blue strategies. A couple Serene Hearts, in case we run into enchantment heavy decks. Boggles. Haven't been seeing a lot of Boggles lately, but still there. We don't want to lose to that. Terminate. We side that in against some decks play big creatures mid range. Anything with Angler, probably run that. Add that in as well. Probably Slivers. We did have in the board. We did have Swirling Sandstorm in the sideboard. Which I'll bring it up here. It just didn't seem that powerful to me. When you have Threshold, it deals 5 damage to each creature without flying if you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard. So, I mean, against Slivers, this card's awesome. Pretty much wipes their board. You got a couple Lords out or whatever, it kills it, but it just seemed underpowered against a lot of other strategies. Doesn't hit Flyers against a lot of the decks out there, and tends to sweep our board as well. We don't have any Flyers, so kind of opted to go without that. Probably regret it. Alright, that's the deck. I will see you in the games. Hopefully we'll play a few games in the just for fun room, maybe the tournament practice room. And I've been testing this deck a lot, so I may even record some league play with it. I don't know if it's that good, but we will see.